Today I want to talk about domestic violence. Now, I'm not going to make this a long video simply because the subject of domestic violence in my circles is a subject that has been flogged a lot. A lot has been said about it, so we don't need to start talking too much. This is simplified. If you are new here, you're welcome. Here we just take things that are serious and we try to simplify it. So if you like what you hear in this video, please subscribe to the channel, give a like to this video, ding the notification bell so you get to know when we have more videos in the channel. So let's go straight to the subject. It's domestic violence. It's become more of a conversation today in Nigeria lately because of the sad incidents of a lady, a gospel artist who passed on, and the reports we hear, I don't have a way to verify it, but the reports we hear is that she passed on from domestic violence from her spouse. And we also hear reports that this has been a recurrent thing in her marriage for a long time, which started the conversation again and begs the question of why is there so much domestic violence around? And then why are victims of domestic violence living with it? Why are they not getting away from that kind of situation, that kind of environment? Why are we living with it? Is it because there is a stigma of being divorced? Is it a situation where we don't have an alternative? Is it because we're taught in Christianity that being divorced is bad, so we're trying to make the marriage work even at the expense of our life? What exactly is the reason why, first of all, there's domestic violence, but secondly, why is it that the victims are quiet, they're enduring it until we hear sad news like this case of the lady that passed on? I'm going to talk about this from 5 different points, and I'm going to try and be very quick about this, just to bring 5 points on the subject. Like I said, a lot has been said, and we're not going to try and say everything about the subject. First thing I want to say is about being married or getting married. There's so much about being married, and marriage is a good thing. But I did a teaching once that I titled, "Marriage is Not Worth It." And it was a bit of a controversial topic because, like I said, marriage is a good thing. If you're married and you're enjoying your marriage, you will say, like, why are you saying marriage is not worth it? But as a marriage counselor, there are too many situations of people who are married and they're living their lives like they're living in hell while they're still on earth. And mostly because they've married wrongly. So we can deal with the issue of domestic violence for all we want, but if we don't deal with the issue of the choice of who we marry, how we come to the choice of spending the rest of our life with this particular person, choosing right. I did a video, and I'm going to link it down below, on that process, dating right, choosing the right person, going through the dating process correctly, asking the right questions, looking for the right signs, coming to a conclusion that if I spend the rest of my life with this person, is it a good decision for me, for where I'm going to, for where I am, for my sanity, for my future, for my purpose? If we choose right, most times we eliminate a lot of the problems that we face, especially domestic violence. And that is, for me, the pinnacle of the problems in marriage. We can be talking about infidelity, we can be talking about there's no love, but when we begin to go into domestic violence, that is a crime. Make no mistake about it, that is a crime. And there should be no reason why we should live in that kind of environment. No reason. So, marry right, date right, marry right. Don't listen to all this pressure. Now, this part is for people who are not married. Don't listen to all these people telling you that you are 25 and single, you are 30 and single, you are 35 and single, you are 45 and single. It is better to be single than to marry wrongly. The lady who lost her life, if she can testify, I'm sure she will say that it's better to be single than to marry the wrong person. So whatever you do, marry right or don't marry. It's important. The second thing is to the guys or the girls for some cases, but mostly it's the guys who are abusing your spouse. And I'm talking of physical abuse. There's also verbal and emotional abuse, which we can talk of, but we don't have the time for that now. Physical abuse. I don't know who raised you up, but it is a crime. It is an abomination to hit your spouse. To raise your hand or take a weapon or something and hit your spouse. That's not your slave. That's not even your child. It's your spouse. It's someone else's child. You never hit your spouse. You never go into physical abuse of another adult just in the name of being married to them. You don't have the right. You don't have the authority. You should be arrested and locked up. And I used to say this to my boys. I have 2 boys. I used to say to them that when they grow up and they get married to a girl, if their wives ever tell me that my son hit her, I'm going to get the police to arrest my son and make sure they lock him up, because it's a crime. You see, our society gets bad when we cover for crimes. A crime is a crime. A crime is a crime. So do not hit your spouse. Don't do that. Don't try to justify that they are rude to you. If what they are doing to you is something you cannot take, get out of the space. But you never hit your spouse. You never do that. You never do that. I've seen guys who tell me that you don't know my wife. She's such a troublesome person. You don't know my wife. Her mouth is loud. See, I know my mother is very loud-mouthed. She can talk. She's aggressive. And she's been married to my father for almost 50 years now, if I'm sure. Next year, I think it will be 50 years or so. My father, I've never seen my father for once raise his hand to hit my mother, to beat my mother up. And she has a mouth. That's just an example to tell you that if you hit your wife, it's not because she has a mouth. It's not because she's insultive and rude. It's because you have a problem. You have no right. No matter what she does to you, if the environment is too toxic for you, get out of the space. If you have to even separate, if you have to go live somewhere else, but you never hit your spouse. Who raised you up to do that? Where did we get that in society? How did we raise our sons, our daughters to accept that you can be violent in a marriage? So point number 2, you never hit your spouse. Don't do that. So point number 3 is for the ladies. I've talked about the single people before you get married. That's usually where the foundation of the problem is coming from. And after that, I've said, okay, if you're married as the spouse, I've talked to the guy, do not hit your wife. But number 3 is to all of us around the ladies. All the guys around the ladies. All of us around the ladies. The father, the uncle, the big brother, the younger brother, the pastor, whoever she looks up to. If there's a lady in your space, you have a responsibility to protect that lady, to speak for her. Don't allow a lady in your space to be abused and you cannot speak for her. Like I was telling you about my boys, I said even their wives, I'm going to ensure the boy is locked up for hitting on his wife, even though he's my son. Because it's wrong and we need to protect the ladies. God did not create the ladies to be alone. The husband is supposed to be the protector, but when he's not doing that job, the father, the uncle, the pastor, whoever we are around that lady, we have to speak for them. Let's stop tolerating, accommodating this kind of evil in society. And I said I'm not going to talk too much about this because we've been talking about this for years, and I don't know why we're not listening. This is not the same thing as he's cheating on me. As grave as that is, it's not comparable with domestic violence. This is a situation of life and death. Don't be quiet when a lady in your space is being abused. Do something, take action, protect that girl. Do it. All of us, especially the father. You have a daughter you gave her in marriage, and a guy is beating on your daughter, or he hit your daughter just once. Just once. Don't let it be twice. Just once. You have a responsibility. You see, I have daughters, that my many daughters, not biological. But when we give their hand in marriage, if you marry any of my daughters or my sisters and you hit her, my brother, what will happen to you? You will not believe it. Oh. You will not believe it, I'm telling you. The girl you didn't give birth to, my own daughter, you will hit her. Once, just once. You will understand. That's the job of a father. Protect your daughters. He cannot come and give you an excuse. You hit my daughter. It will not happen a second time. The Bible says affliction cannot rise a second time. We have to protect them. Pastors, we hear the stories of our members who are being abused, and we are trying to counsel and first of all separate them from that toxic environment before we are doing counseling. And I'm not talking of divorce. I'm going to come to that. But I'm saying don't let it continue. Don't let once become twice. And no. We all have a responsibility towards that girl. Which brings me to point number 4. To the woman now. So I've spoken to the single, I've spoken to the abuser, I've spoken to the parents and all the support system around the abused, and now to you who is being abused. And I'm using the lady because majority of the cases we hear in domestic abuse, the lady is being abused. There are a lot of cases where the guy is being abused by the lady physically. So the advice goes both ways. But I'm talking more of the lady because that's the majority of the cases we hear. What do you do when you are abused? When somebody beats you once? I'm not talking of a recurrent situation. You have no business being in a recurrent domestic violence situation. No, you have absolutely no business. When it happens the first time, you have to get out of that space. You have to stop it. He cannot beat you on Monday and come on Tuesday and say he's sorry. He's not sorry. You can't accommodate and tolerate that, and we give all this excuse of how, my children and all that. See, when you die, that guy that is beating you up beats you to death. He's going to bring those prostitutes he's sleeping with that is making him beat you, and you're fighting and he's beating you. Those girls are going to come home, and those your children are going to see hell. You will not be there to protect them. So if you stay in that environment, you are only making case worse. You need to get out of an environment that is toxic. I said I'm not preaching divorce. I'm going to come to that because that's my 5th point, and I'm going to explain the subject of divorce because it's very controversial in the Christian circle, to the point where we are using that quote to do all kinds of things. I'll talk about that next. But I'm talking to you who is being abused. Don't keep receiving the abuse and you are there. You are already dead. I mean, you're not dead physically, but emotionally, psychologically, you are a shadow of yourself. Your self-esteem is gone. You're miserable, you're depressed, and you are calling that a marriage. You are living in that kind of space. Your children are being brought up in that kind of space. It's not healthy for you, for anybody. Don't stay in a domestic violence space. And I'm going to just digress to say something here quickly. A lot of women who are living in such toxic environments are doing that because we are not empowered. The man is the source of all our livelihood, so we can't leave him. We can't leave that space. How are we going to eat? How are we going to feed our children? How are we going to survive if we leave this man? So you will be there till he kills you because you can't survive. And this brings me back to my first point when I say marry right. Because you little girls who are dating Yahoo boys and criminals, people you are still dating him and he's already cheating on you. And you are saying that when he grows up, he will change, or when you pray harder, he will change. You are accepting that kind of toxic environment. It's going to progress in marriage. Now, instead of you, while you are in year 3, year 4, to think of how you can be independent financially, So you don't have to depend on someone for the rest of your life. You are busy accepting iPhone 13. This is the consequence. 10 years later, you have no job, you have no career, you have no, all your livelihood depends on the man. So when that man is abusing you, you can't live in, you can't survive on your own. Let me breathe. I don't want to be too emotional on this. But I'm talking to all you young girls because you are creating the environment where you're going to be abused tomorrow. Somebody's going to cheat on you, beat on you, and you will not be able to live without him. Abusers always prey on those kind of vulnerability where you cannot survive without them, you cannot live without them, and they take advantage of that. You need to watch your own space. You need to watch your own space. Develop yourself, empower yourself. You should be able to live as an individual. And it comes back to my third point where I say let's protect the ladies. See, if you are a father of a girl, even if that man is Dangote, is the richest man in Africa, and is abusing your daughter, go and feed your daughter by yourself. Keep her sanity, keep her life. So, if you are being abused, point number 4, get out of that space. In simple terms, get out of that space. Which brings me to point number 5, divorce. Divorce is a bad thing. Let's not paint it. Whether in Christianity or outside Christianity, it's not healthy for the family, it's not healthy for the children. But as bad as divorce is, it is not as bad as domestic violence. We can try to make the marriage work when there are differences, when we have issues, but not domestic. See, domestic violence is a crime. You are living with a criminal. He has no right, she has no right to lift his hands and give you a slap in the name of marriage. So this is not talking divorce. Don't break your marriage, but get out of that space. And if there's no way to continue in the marriage after we've tried to reconcile you people and we cannot get that violence to stop, break that marriage. That's what we're saying. We are saying don't divorce when we can make it work, but that has nothing to do with domestic violence. When it's domestic violence, get out of that space. And if separation is not working and it will lead to divorce, let it lead to divorce. For domestic violence sake, don't stay there. Don't stay there. I don't know how else to speak this English to you. You're watching me, you're hearing me. You have somebody in your life. It may not be you, it may be your sister, your auntie, your uncle, who is in that kind of space, that environment that is toxic. Share the video with them. Talk to them. Speak for them. We had a lady that the husband was beating on her. We went to her house and packed all her things, put her in the car, drag her into the car and took her home. Come back home. She said, hey, he's my husband. We are the ones that will bury you. We are the ones that will be looking after your children when you die. So we don't want to hear his man. We went there, we took her and her stuff, put her in the car and get out. And we told her, if you're not living now, we're bringing the police to lock up your husband. Which one do you prefer? You get out of this space now. We have to speak up. We have to intervene. We can't all look left, look away when things are going wrong in a marriage and it leads to violence. So that's the 5 things I wanted to say. Like I said, that this is already getting into a long video. Let me stop. There's so much to say. There's so much we can talk about. We don't have the time to talk about it. If you like the video, if you've been blessed by it, please share it to someone who you think may need it. Post it in your social media circles. Let someone hear and know and get out of that space. Help someone today and help yourself if you are in such kind of situation. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed. Ding the notification bell so you get to know when we have new videos in the channel. Give it a thumbs up if you think it's a good video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.